Welcome to the Love Out Loud broadcast from the sweetest place on Sweet Auburn. Wheat Street has always been and always will be one of the centerpieces of Auburn Avenue. We are a church in the heart of Atlanta, with Atlanta in our heart. Greetings and welcome to the Love Out Loud broadcast. Today's show will feature an up-close and personal interview with the newly installed pastor of Wheat Street Baptist Church. We live and breathe these streets. Join us on this journey. It's a new day at Wheat Street Baptist Church.
I got to holler one time. Preach! Preach the word. Preach it in season. Preach it out of season. Preach it when they'll hear you. Preach it when they won't hear you. I believe that if you preach the word, God is going to do some things. God is getting ready to turn some things around. Matter of fact, I can feel him leading in this direction. Hallelujah, somebody. Your charge, your duty, your responsibility, your assigned task. And being responsible to God, I would call to mind a happening somewhere around 742 before the Common Era. That was the year, I am told, that King Uzziah died. And he saw the Lord high and lifted up. He saw angels and heard them cry holy. He saw himself and his people and their need for cleansing. He got his lips purged. He got his words straight. Then from the pristine portals of glory, he heard a voice, a question that came to him. Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? I charge you to answer like he answered. Here am I. Sing me.
What a joyous day this is. Let's pray as we install this pastor into this house. Father, in the name of Jesus, that name that is above every name, before we ask you for anything, we thank you for everything. We speak life to this house. We speak life, 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 life. May it live again. May everything that's been dead here rise, God. Rise in ambition and in purpose, God, that has been given of you. I pray your anointing upon this pastor who's being installed this day. God, may your hand be upon him to lead him and to guide him. Give him a wisdom beyond his years. May he have the keenness of the perspicacity of an eagle, God. May your wisdom rest upon his life to know what to do, when to do, where to do, and with whom to do the things that you've ordained for his life, God, and for this ministry. I pray in the name of Jesus that everything that is designed to be here, that for every empty seat, that there is an empty heart, God. And I pray that you cause there to be a merging between the two. I pray, God, that you will so stimulate the vision in this pastor that he'll have trouble sleeping at night sometimes. It's not because he has a vision, but because a vision has him. I pray in the name of Jesus, God, that Holy Ghost fire will burn from this place, and that surely the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and that we shall all see it together. I thank you for the richness of the heritage of this house. I thank you for its wonderful history, but I thank you for its glorious destiny. And Father, may you let this man that has come into this place and is installed in this day be the bridge that will close up the chasm, God, between history and destiny.
We ask for your continued prayers and support as we seek to hear from God. We ask for your continued prayers as we seek to honor the ancestors and elders, builders, visionaries,
and freedom fighters who came before us. We ask for your continued prayers as we seek to continue what was started before we ever set foot on this hallowed ground. We ask for your continued prayers and support as we seek not to write a new story, but rather to simply write the next chapter. In the book, The Prophet of Wheat Street, the book that chronicles the life and ministry of the Reverend Dr. William Holmes Borders Sr. The final chapter of that book is entitled, The Miracle Goes On. We thank God that the miracle that we call Wheat Street, the miracle goes on. God is not finished with us yet. The miracle goes on. So God bless you, and we thank you for your prayers and for your support. Amen.
So on behalf of Wheat Street Baptist Church, we present Dr. Raphael Walker his gospel. From the church family by Dr. And now our trustee chairman, Deacon Logan, presents the roll. Reverend Watkins, let this roll remind you of the task God has called you to do as you continue to walk in your purpose. Now we present the roll. I hope it's black and gold. Hallelujah.
I am so excited to be sitting here with Pastor Watkins for a one-on-one close-up interview. Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here with you.
Tell us, we want to get to know you a little bit better. You are a newly installed pastor here at Wheat Street Baptist Church. Who is Pastor Watkins?
Well, I think he's a fun-loving, a guy who really enjoys what he does, loves his work, loves being a part of the community. I would argue that I'm a very liberation-minded theologian, but I believe in doing the practical work of making a difference in the world. So that's one side of me. Mm-hmm. I'm also an artist and a writer. I'm a photographer, storyteller, multimedia storyteller as well. I'm married to Vanessa Watkins for 35 years. We have 3 adult children who no longer live with us.
Yay!
That's kind of me in a nutshell.
Oh, that's awesome. Just from observation, I've noticed you're a little bit unorthodox, not the usual that we're used to seeing. Tell us about your style of ministry and pastoring.
Well, I think I'm kind of that bridge generation, right? I come from this kind of R&B hip-hop world. Yeah. Those are my major influences, right? So I'm a lover of hip-hop, lover and R&B. So I kind of think my kind of style is kind of that kind of world, right? And then also being an artist, that kind of eclectic creative style speaks to me. So I appear to be unorthodox. I think it's the artist in me. It's like there's an artist propaganda who says, and people say I'm too creative. I think that's who I am, right? Very edgy, but also being a kid of the civil rights movement, very justice-oriented and very inclusive in my thinking and in my work as well.
That's awesome. Now, I'm going to ask the obvious question. How does your style mix with Wheat Street?
Interesting.
It seems like a very traditional church.
Yeah, it's kind of an oxymoronic, a loving, caring, beloved relationship. I think this is a church that's looking towards the future. And we had a pastor back in the day named William Holmes Borders Sr., who was very eclectic, very creative, very edgy. So in many ways, I think we're kind of harkening back to what we've always been, a kind of edgy, cutting-edge church, not afraid to take risks. And I think we are a church ready to take some new and exciting risks, while asking the question, how are we relevant in this age, making a real difference in this day and age?
Absolutely, and piggybacking on that, how do you invite that younger generation in? How do you attract my generation, for instance, not that much younger, but how do you get us re-engaged?
I think being real and being relevant, not being this kind of pietistic, holier-than-thou Christian. Let's deal with real life, making a real difference. I say many times in church, I quote one of my favorite artists. His name is Prince. And he says, dearly beloved, we gather here together today to ask the question, how do we get through this thing called life?
Yes.
I think churches that make a difference help people get through this thing called life by being real, being relevant, being empowering and journeying with folk in a real way.
So how do you convince, or how does it work when you see church as traditional and the things that you described? How do you mix Prince and Pass Me Not, O Gentle Savior? How do you get folks to be
I think
able
they're
to?
perfect. They both start with a P, right? That's one thing. But I think they're very relevant because when you really study that music, Pass Me Not, O Gentle Savior, those old songs, they were relevant to that time. Even like the birth of gospel music is relevant to that time. I mean, recently we had an artist, Sho Baraka, here, a rapper who rapped recently at our church, and his music speaks to this time. So I think that the church understands to be relevant, you must speak to the times. You can't sing 1930 music in 2017. It must be different sound. Our ears are wired differently. And I think the church understands that, and because I embrace that, they hear that. But see, I know both songs. I know Pass Me Not and I know Prince. So what I do is I make sure I pay homage to both of those, not forgetting the old, but also giving a place for the new and those new and relevant and empowering voices. So if I say Pass Me Not, and as Prince says, how do we get through this thing called life? I think they get it.
That's awesome. Let's move more toward on a Sunday morning, right? One of the things that I've heard a lot is your timeliness. I am used to being in church for 6 hours, starting at Sunday school, and by the time we get through it, it's been 6 hours, and there's an evening service.
Right.
So how does your timeliness appeal also to the old and the new, or the young and the old?
I think we see time quite differently. There's a book entitled Pressured, and it talks about how we see time. It's time out. We used to think being in church a long time meant we were holy and we were being sacrificial unto God. It was holier than now. That time has changed, right? We now live in an on-demand world. We live in a right-now world. If it's, I want to have broadband, high-speed, 1 gigabyte, right kind of trip, that's reality. So for me, I think a 15 to 20-minute sermon is sufficient. I think we can do church in an hour and 15 minutes and be fine. We can be holy, we can be focused. And I think you need to treat people's time with respect, right? And so if we're going to be living in the world we live in today, I think this is what makes sense. I think our church understands that, because quiet as it's kept, the saints was tired too. As Fannie Hamer said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, at some point, how much can folk endure? I mean, our attention spans have changed dramatically. I mean, listen to when we first started hip hop, 7-minute song. Now those songs are 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That's the world we live in. So let's be relevant and make sure folk can digest what you're sharing with them.
So you are the 7th pastor of this great church.
Yeah.
What are you going to bring to Wheat Street, keeping that old but bringing your own style? What will we see? What does that look like?
I think for me it's important for us to realize we're not writing a new book. We're simply writing the next chapter. But you're updating the book, right? And I think when you look back at those times when our church was flourishing, we were relevant, we were real, we were contemporary. That's what you'll see us having. You'll see us empowering younger people, right? I need people in their 20s and 30s and 40s informing and leading, not waiting to lead. We can't wait till folk are 50 to put them into leadership. They must be in leadership now. We must ensure we're reaching out to younger people and speaking a word that speaks to their life, right? Using their culture. We believe that the gospel and culture go together. So we blend those things together to do ministry.
That's a very different perspective, and one that I think will resonate with folks. So why the Love Out Loud broadcast?
See, I think what Jesus did was he loved, he acted publicly, out loud. He made a difference. He didn't just get on the cross. He fed folk, he healed folk, he talked with folk, he spent time with folk, he wrestled with their journeys and their struggles, and then he did something about it. For us as a church, if you're not doing something that makes a difference, you're not a church, you're a club.
Right.
If you come to church Sunday, have a good time, but if you do nothing to change the conditions in this world, you are not a church. So Love Out Loud means we're doing something. We are making a real difference in the world, making it a more just place, a more inclusive place, a more welcoming place. If you're not doing that, you're not a church. So Love Out Loud means literally you love in such a way that folks see the love of Christ, because we're doing things that make an actual difference in people's lives.
And what about people who don't traditionally, they love the big city, they love the bright lights, but they don't see it as a place of love? How do you mix that message?
Yeah, and see, for us, I think that we say that we are a church in the heart of Atlanta, with Atlanta in our heart, that we actually show love. by being love in these four walls, outside these four walls. We argue in our context, love is what makes us known. The scripture is clear. You will know about the love we have one for the other. So how are we a loving presence in the city? And then those who want to engage us virtually, that's okay too. I believe God can work through the airwaves, so to speak, right? But the real thing for us is to touch you when you're here, to be real out there and be real in our everyday lives, showing love and being love in the city of Atlanta.
I love it. What is your vision moving forward for Wheat Street?
Our vision is simple. It's about freedom. It's about justice. It's about being inclusive. It's about liberation. It's about making a real difference in this world. It's about responding to the needs of the people as they're articulated to us by the people. So what do people need from us? What do we bring to the table to make this city a place you can live and also thrive?
Pastor Watkins, you talk a lot about the church being outside of the four walls. Why is that important?
See, for me, I understand Jesus' ministry being a ministry outside the four walls of the church. Jesus never built a church. He always did his work in the world, making a real difference in the lives of those he touched. We believe that Jesus is called to seek the freedom, liberation, justice, and peace of God in the world, making a real difference. We come to church to feed our faith. We leave the church to live our faith. We live our faith in the world, making a real difference in the world.
And how amazing is it, the literal location of Wheat Street being right here on Sweet Auburn, as one of the mottos of the broadcast is the sweetest place on Sweet Auburn. Talk about the location of Wheat Street Baptist Church.
We're in the heart of Atlanta. We're in this kind of Auburn, Old Fourth Ward, Edgewood district where a lot is happening. A lot is going on, a lot of life and vibrancy, renewal. Some might even say gentrification. So what role do we play to make sure things are done just, done right, that we treat our least and left out in the appropriate way, that we actually seek the real justice? So therefore, it's an interesting space to be in. We are in the heart of the city. As we say, we are a church in the heart of the city with the city in our heart. We are the sweetest place on Auburn, but we're doing the tough work, the hard work, the good work, the best work, doing God's work to make this a more just place.
But I'm watching while I pray. No matter the attack, I won't turn back.
Okay, so we're going to kind of change gears, as they say.
Okay.
And we're going to learn more about Pastor Watkins.
Okay.
Okay, so this segment of the interview, or this portion of the interview, will be called What Would You Rather?
Okay.
You have to pick one
Okay.
and give a brief explanation.
Here we go.
Okay, so would you rather, and I'm going to give you two choices,
Okay.
and you have to pick one.
Okay.
And don't try to say both.
All right.
Okay?
Okay. Here we go.
So
Here we
my
go.
first, would you rather? Would you rather lose your sight or your voice?
My voice. I'm a photographer. I'm a multimedia storyteller. So I love to see. I mean, I've probably engaged the world through the lens of a camera. I've probably taken more pictures than I could ever imagine. I mean, I have a Master of Fine Arts in photography. So to me, the eye, the sight is what I love. I love to see. And I think it engages multiple senses. So I would rather hold on to my eyesight.
That is excellent. I just knew you would. Okay, I knew you would say the reverse. Okay.
Because a picture tells 1,000 words, right?
It
So I can
does.
still preach telling stories and not use my voice at all.
That was good. Let me give you something harder. Would you rather meet Dr. King or Malcolm X?
Malcolm X. I was a child of Malcolm X more than King. I was raised by a mother who was a Black Panther. So to me, my kind of thought about life and engaging history has been from the more quiet as it's kept, more from Islam, right? In many ways, right? In the nation, which really informed me. So I was a lover and admirer of Elijah Muhammad. Loved Malcolm X as well. I read Malcolm before I read King. So even though I am a Christian, one of my fathers in the ministry, or theological fathers, is James Cone, and wrote a book entitled Martin and Malcolm. Right? He wrote a book called Black Theology and Black Power. And he talked about, King gave him this kind of essence of what it meant to be a faithful Christian, but Malcolm gave him the will to fight. And for me, Malcolm gives me the will and the desire to fight against injustice, literally.
His answers are so good. Okay. Would you rather the mountains or the beach?
The beach. We love the beach. We love the beach. Okay. And I think part of this from my African-centeredness, right? My wife and I go to the continent of Africa and visit. One of our goals is to visit every country on the continent of Africa. Yes. And so for me, there's something about the beach. I mean, our ancestors were taken from them. When I first went to Ghana, and the door of no return to see where your ancestors were taken from the continent of Africa and brought to this thing called slavery. I think it's there's something about the waters and the oceans and the spirit of the ancestors that cry to me. So when I hear the ocean waters, I am both calmed by its peacefulness and moved by the cries of my people from the ocean.
Oh, so good. Okay, a couple more. Would you rather salty or sweet?
I like sweet. My wife loves to bake, and I love to eat her baking. When I married her 35 years ago, she didn't love to bake, but because, I don't know what happened over time, she does this. And so I love to see her baking, and she's a wonderful baker. And I don't know, and I think when I was a kid, I had an affair with Krispy Kreme donuts that never ended, right? I mean, I think the hot now sign is directly from God. It's,
okay.
So I love sweets.
Good deal. Okay, so our next one, we're gonna talk about your first lady. Tell us about Miss Vanessa and why she is that power to the couple.
Yeah. So we met in high school. I was in 4th grade. I was the captain of the football team. I was the first black vice president of student government. I thought I was the stuff. And so I was dating this other young lady at the time who was captain of the cheerleaders. So Vanessa's in 10th grade, I'm in 12th grade. Okay. And so I saw her, and she was not impressed at all.
Yes.
Not impressed at all. And I think I admired that. I admired her honesty, and she challenged me. You know, she said, I heard you was a 2-time. Wow. And so I respected that, and she loved to read, and I love to read. So when I first met her, the first conversation we had was at lunch. We both were reading books. And so it was that kind of attraction. We loved novels like, Baldwin and Wright, and those kind of things. So I think that's why I fell in love with her. But also, she's brilliant. She's brilliant, she's strong, she's a leader, she's cutting edge, she's edgy, she's savvy, she's beautiful. But I think the biggest thing about my wife is that just her wisdom, just at a very young age, very wise soul. And like me, love to work and love the work that we do, is willing to take chances. And as an educator, she's a principal, and we both love children. So I think it was those kind of things that brought us together to keep us together as well.
I love that. Oh, okay. Last segment is fill in the blank.
Okay.
If I had my own reality TV show, it would be titled Fill in the Blank.
I wish a blank would, and then you fill in the blank, right? And then you fill in the blank, right?
No!
Because my thing is, I think many times in our lives, we have these masks on, we're pretending something we're not. And I just want folk to be real. Okay. And not a reality show, it's not a reality show.
Yes.
But really be who you are, right?
Yes.
I think the thing for me about life is the challenges that I have taken on that have pushed me to be who God's called me to be. And it's through accepting those challenges that I understand who I am. So I wish it would, right? And fill in the blank. That would be my reality show, my show.
Okay, that threw me. See, this is a good interview. Okay, fill in the blank. Something people don't know about me.
I think they don't know. They know that I read, but not how much I read. Okay. I mean, I am really addicted to reading. Okay. It's pretty bad. So I try to read at least 100 books a year. Wow. Which means that's almost a little less than 2 books a week. Right. And I think people know that I read, but not how much I read. And I don't like to watch TV. I may watch a sporting event, but I don't really watch TV at all. But I'm addicted to reading. Literally, my son is like me. So my son and I would like stay up all night reading and like get headaches.
Right.
I cannot not read. And so when my son was little, we would spend time, our favorite time together was in libraries and bookstores. And I would punish him would be to not read. And they don't know that me and Vanessa's major fights are about I'm not paying attention because I'm reading. So I read on my phone, my iPads. I love to read. And it's really, I think it's an addiction almost.
That is really awesome. Anything you'd like to add that we haven't covered today?
I think the biggest thing for me is that my love of hip hop culture,
Yes.
my love of culture, and how I believe God revealed God's self in the world through multiple mediums, not just what we call I don't believe in the sacred secular divide. I believe God revealed God's self through all people, through all spaces, time and spaces, as well as cultural artifacts, right? So for me, I think it's my love of hip hop culture, and all hip hop, right? I love the worst of the worst and the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
And I love trap music and conscious music, right? You know what I mean? So, I love Common and 2 Chainz, so you know what I mean? So the kind of breadth of my listening, I think a lot of people don't realize that. In addition to my reading, it's my love listening to music, and Spotify is like my best friend because Spotify helps me find new music. So I literally love Spotify. So I think that would be the thing about me. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sitting down with us for this up close and personal interview. We hope you learned something about Pastor Watkins of Wheat Street Baptist Church.
Come check us out. I'm saying come check us out. Right here at the church. Well, you know what? You might catch me in the street. But say, you know what T.I. said? You might see me, but sorry, you don't know me, but I want to get to know you. So come by. If you see me in the street, stop, holler at your boy. Let's get to know each other. Look, we're going to do this thing. We are Atlanta's church. We are a church in the heart of Atlanta with Atlanta in our heart. Come, check us out. Holler at your boy.
We are Atlanta's church. Wheat Street believes in being connected to the community. We come to church to feed our faith, and we leave the church to live our faith. We are writing a new chapter in the history of our church, and we invite you to join us. We are a church in the heart of the city, with the city in our heart. Thank you for watching our first broadcast of Love Out Loud. I'm your host, Keisha Lee, and we ask you to join us next time from the sweetest place on Sweet Auburn.